Continuing from the previous episode 2390. Although this guy's soul power is only in the middle of Yuan, the control and use of soul power seems to be too strong. In the round stage arena, the space is huge, with a range of several thousand meters. At this time, Xiaoyan's body is slightly embarrassed and fled around. Although Xiaoyan's soul power is strong, he still suffers a lot in using and mastering his attacking fighting skills. It's useless. Yao Wuchen's soul power has been sheltered in the Yuan-Tai arena. Unless your soul power breaks through the immortal wandering, you can't escape. Here, the real winner will be decided. Try my blow. The corners of Xu Yuan's mouth rose, and even a frantic smile emerged, which made people feel chills. As soon as he finished speaking, his entire body shook slowly, so that his palms actually became illusory, and an almost pure white arm, carrying a terrifying wave that Xiaoyan had never seen before, swept over. Soul fighting skills, and some scrolls for defense soul fighting skills. It seems that we have to hurry up and prepare. After Xiaoyan finished speaking, he suddenly closed his eyes, and then, instead of escaping, slowly sat cross-legged above the void. In this pure spiritual world, it seems that all powers except soul power are temporarily suppressed. Xiaoyan can mobilize the soul power in his body at will, but it is quite difficult to use the power of reincarnation. However, Xiaoyan believes that even if his use of soul power is rather weak, but with his current soul power, he will naturally not have any problems to deal with a guy in the realm of Huayuan realm. Soul Vortex. As a last resort, Xiaoyan could only grit his teeth, mobilize the soul power of the 5-layered spiritual palace in his body, and blast away Xu Yuan in front of him. The reason why only the 5-story spiritual palace is used is naturally to preserve the strength. Middle of Huayuan? The arm formed by the gathering of soul power quietly raised, the void buzzing in the entire round stage arena, but Xu Yuan's eyelids kept jumping. Suffered to death. Forcibly swept away the other distracting thoughts in his mind, Xu Yuan's body flickered like a ghost, leaving a burst of afterimages in the void, and bombarded and killed directly at Xiaoyan's key point. If the arm formed by the power of the soul, if it hits Xiaoyan completely, I am afraid that even if he does not die, he will be seriously injured. The soul power contained in the 5th-floor spiritual palace slowly overflowed from the top of Xiaoyan's head, and then quietly formed a dark black vortex. The vortex slowly twisted, and there was a strange power that was enough to swallow and crush even the void, and even the terrifying fluctuations contained in it. Even the scalp was tingling. The soul power of Yuanjing? The domain master of this endless fire domain has a bit of strength. Looking at the thousands of crystals in the square, the crystals that recorded Xiaoyan's battle were shining brightly. Some of the elders couldn't help but speak out, and then engraved Xiaoyan's name on the golden paper in their hands. To be able to step into the Yuan realm at this age, the achievements in the future are limitless. Original transformation. It doesn't seem right. Yao Wuchen squinted his eyes and glanced at Xiaoyan in the Jingjing realm. He seemed to be aware of it, but he did not break it. Girl, there shouldn't be anything major happening here. I'll leave it to you here. We need to deal with some other things. Princess Qianchen whispered in Zuner's ear. After speaking, she pulled Xiao Yi, who was stunned, quietly avoiding the eyes of many experts in the refining temple, and went to some core places in the mountain range. Brother Xiaoyan, come on. Zuner quietly stood on the void, but when she turned her head, she saw some guards from the Moon God Palace and even the Flower God Palace. I am afraid that this time, even these superpowers will be involved in the medicine pill meeting. Vain. Die. Xu Yuan sneered, and his arm shot straight at the whirlpool. Humph. After Xu Yuan's attack fell, the corners of Xiaoyan's eyes suddenly opened, the soul vortex began to shrink a little bit, and the huge suction force actually bound Xu Yuan's entire body firmly. This is impossible. At this moment, Xu Yuan's face was pale, and his pupils looked at Xiaoyan in shock. This guy has been setting things up since the beginning. His soul power is clearly not in the middle stage of Yuan realm. He used all his soul power to deal with Xiaoyan, mistakenly thinking that he was hitting a stone with an egg. Ended. Crack. Xiaoyan grabbed his palm suddenly, the void closed, and the soul vortex was like a piercing sound like a tooth pitch, easily destroying his soul attack. Cough cough. His strongest blow, his soul power, was so easily dispelled by Xiaoyan. Xu Yuan's footsteps kept trembling. a rare fear appeared in his pupils, his soul power was greatly damaged, and the deep pain in his heart made his complexion distorted and his ugliness revealed. Don't worry, I can't bear to kill you. But now I have to feel sorry for you. With a big wave of Xiao Yan's hand, the vortex of his soul emerged, and he swallowed Shu Yuan's body in an instant. Obviously, according to some previous traces, this guy could not die. This elder, the outcome is already divided. Can I go to the next match? After swallowing Shu Yuan and temporarily imprisoning him in the spiritual palace within his body, Xiao Yan just said to the old man in the arena. The old man who was maintaining the competition appeared, and seeing Xiao Yan's actions like this, he immediately became suspicious. Although this was within the rules of the competition, if someone messed up, even the medicine temple would not be able to come forward to solve it for a while. However, Shu Yuan is just a nameless generation, and he is not the proud son of any major power, otherwise it will definitely not be like this. Go! After some thought, the old man could only nod his head and let Xiao Yan go down. Second round. The third game. Except for the rather strange figure he encountered in the first game, which made Xiao Yan a little bit struggling, most of the enemies he encountered were just ordinary people. He hastily conceded defeat without using all his strength, which made Xiao Yan look like he was still unfinished. Next, there should be only the last 3 battles of souls, and maybe these 3 will be the most ferocious battles. After stepping out of the Yuantai arena, Xiao Yan unconsciously muttered as he looked at the 3 Yuantai arenas shrouded in midair. Peefed. With a bang, after stepping into the 3rd soul battle arena, Xiao Yan looked up, and a sturdy body seemed to be waiting here for a long time. Xiao Yan. The sturdy figure seemed to have long known that the visitor was Xiao Yan, and spoke directly. Yep, Xiao Yan was slightly startled when he heard this. Don't ask who I am. I'm just sending a message for you for someone. Take advantage of now, take your people and leave the fairyland early. The sturdy man in front of him shook his head and opened his mouth, keeping his eyes on Xiao Yan. What if I say no? Xiao Yan noticed something, and directly looked at each other, trying to detect the specific identity of this figure. Don't waste your energy, I'm just a passerby. This is the end of the matter, farewell. Good luck. Just after he finished speaking, this guy voluntarily conceded defeat and left, leaving behind only Xiao Yan, who was pondering from his footing here. What's the origin of this guy? Combining what Xiao Yan had thought before and what happened now, some bad premonitions emerged in his heart. But after some thought, Xiao Yan decided to live and die together with the immortal realm. After all, he is the master of the holy flame. Moreover, if this extraordinarily beautiful world of immortal world ceased to exist, it would be a great loss to the great thousand world. What's more, that is that Xiao Yan has not solved the curse of darkness and those things that he is still worried about. The most important thing is that this time the champion of the Alchemy Pill Society, Xiao Yan, must take it. Continuing from the previous episode 2391. 2 games left. After sorting out his breath, Xiao Yan left the current spiritual world arena and rushed to the next battle, but on the way, his brows were furrowed, obviously thinking about what the eccentric said just now. Since he can appear in the immortal realm and can safely participate in the battle of souls, he is obviously an alchemist, but from his tone, it seems that he knows something. But why would he tell himself? What are his goals and intentions? Yep, where is my opponent? Stepping into this spiritual world arena, Xiao Yan looked up, but there was no one on the opposite side of him, and there was only a very strange silence. Quote. The silence continued, but Xiao Yan did not relax his vigilance based on his intuition for many years, because this kind of recruitment might be some extremely difficult opponents. Someone touched the origin of the soul in the soul battle. In order to prevent his soul power from being broken, he has already conceded defeat, so this game is counted as a bye, and you will be promoted directly. Master Xiao can go to the last level. If you successfully defeat the last opponent, you will successfully advance to the second round. The voice that guided Xiao Yan emerged. Quote. Xiao Yan reluctantly waved his hand and swayed his footsteps towards the final battlefield. The curse of darkness, the mysterious monster just now, the entrance to the center of the fairy world, etc. have always been suppressed in Xiao Yan's mind, but Xiao Yan was unable to speak out about this matter, and his whole person seemed a little gloomy for a while. In a few minutes, Xiao Yan stepped into the final battlefield, but the battlefield here is like an altar. The huge square is full of countless ancient atmospheres, like some kind of powerful prohibition. In the corner of the altar square, there seems to be a woman with an enchanting figure standing slowly here. Is it finally here? With the appearance of Xiao Yan, the figure murmured, and the voice was filled with a rare fiery heat. Let's start. Xiao Yan nodded lightly to him, and looked at this figure with a slightly solemn gaze, which looked like a magnificent flower. From this girl's body, an extremely tyrannical spiritual pressure slowly permeated out. Just a trace of invisible fluctuations are so tyrannical, I am afraid this guy's strength. Flower God Palace, flowers are blooming. Endless fire territory, Xiao Yan. Boom! As soon as the two voices fell, an invisible tide of soul suddenly gushed out from the two of them. They couldn't help but make a move, and the terrifying soul force actually slammed into the void of the altar. Wong buzz! The void of the altar was slightly twisted and illusory, and after the breath, faint dark cracks emerged, consuming the soul power of the two. The law of the spirit dragon. Hua Qianqin seemed to have known for a long time that the altar void had the strange power that devoured the soul, and immediately put her palms together, and one after another extremely mysterious and complex lines emerged. Boom! A touch of ancient turbid qi gushed out from its delicate body, and immediately turned into a nearly transparent soul dragon that roared wildly. The terrifying power that shook the soul actually caused Xiao Yan's body to tremble slightly. Excellent soul control. Xiao Yan's body slowly left the ground of the altar, entrenched in the air, watching Hua Qianqin's offensive in front of him. His mind rolled violently, as if he had come to a realization. It's a pity that the master's tricks are deadly, and Hua Qianqin will naturally not give Xiao Yan the time to realize the power of his soul. With his arms raised, the angry soul dragon pierces the sky, and with a touch of strong power, suppresses Xiao Yan. Soul power. Xiao Yan's expression was a little ugly. With such a fast attack method, he could only passively be beaten, and he had no chance to gather his soul power. The soul power confrontation. Xiao Yan's body trembled slightly. Although the opponent's attack was not fatal, it still gave Xiao Yan an extremely depressed aura, especially that soul-angry dragon. If it weren't for Xiao Yan's soul power slightly stronger than this girl, if it is stronger, I am afraid that it will be quietly defeated by the sun. Sure enough. But try my trick. Saint-level soul fighting skills. Hua Mian Sheng Yin. The aftermath of the former attack was not all that easy. A gentle power was slowly blooming. In an instant, a soft light ignited in the entire altar. The power of poison became quiet. Gollum. Seeing the light blooming slowly, the soul power in it spread out, Xiao Yan's face jumped violently. Since you are so crazy, then I should sacrifice my life to accompany the beauty. The 6th floor Spirit Palace. Holy Flame Soul Pupil. Above Xiao Yan's head, there was suddenly a 6-layered transparent soul palace crawling. As soon as the strange pupils were formed, they quietly flickered and blinked, and the one-piece room actually caused some elders in the refining hall to be in a trance. This little girl from the Flower God Palace is really even more terrifying. Looking at Xiao Yan and the two of them with such terrifying killer moves outside the arena, some of the elders were full of admiration and envy in their eyes. Although this girl's talent is good, she can only rank 2nd in the entire Washan Palace. Can such a genius be ranked 2nd? I don't know who the first genius in the Flower God Palace is. I don't know, it seems that the genius rarely shows up, and has always lived in the Washan Palace mansion, living in a secluded place, but her strength and talent are unquestionable. After all, that's the next flower *** that Princess Wajingong personally sealed. Many conversation voices poured out from the void on the top of the mountain, but there were already obvious traces of the contest in the field. Boom! The soul flower suddenly burst out with tidal waves of energy, and then abruptly tore the entire altar space, and the vast fluctuations shot back towards Xiao Yan. Wong buzz! The two attacks made contact with each other, and the entire altar space shook violently, but there was no energy explosion or fluctuation. Instead, at the moment when the attacks touched, both of them disappeared easily. After the two attacks were overwhelmed, Xiao Yan and Hua Qianqin looked at each other with intense fighting intent in their eyes. Cough. This game is a draw. The two advanced together. Just when the two of them were still trying to start a battle, the old man in charge of the competition order hurriedly appeared, looking like an old man. These two people were specially instructed by the high-level officials to need special care. The purpose of the first level of soul battle was naturally to greatly reduce the number of alchemists. However, existences like Xiao Yan and Hua Qianqin, regardless of success or failure, were qualified to advance to the next competition. After all, the rules of the alchemy temple are slightly inclined towards these talented alchemists. You are strong. I hope to see your full strength in the next game. After Hua Qianqin finished speaking, she turned around and left here under the leadership of the old man. Hua Divine Palace, it's really a mysterious force. Xiao Yan murmured, but for some reason, he couldn't help but think of the disappearance of the Flower Sect master in the Do Qi continent. Yun Yun, I will definitely find you. A firm and powerful low roar poured out from Xiao Yan's mouth, and then this first level was successfully passed without any risk. Continuing from the previous episode 2392. At the end of the first level of Soul Confrontation, many powerful people with extraordinary talents suddenly appeared in the entire Wanling Mountain, which shocked countless powerhouses. Among these powerhouses, about 100 or so alchemists entered the second test together, but there are still 10 days before the second test starts. After all, these 3 tests are separate. The rest of the time is naturally used to restore the soul power of such alchemists to recuperate. Only when they are in a complete state at the peak can they exert their true strength. For ordinary people, 10 days is just a snap of their fingers, but for many pharmacists who have advanced to the first round and entered the second level, it is suitable to become a precious time where every second counts. If you can improve your strength and technology during this period, you will be more and more sure of winning the championship. At this time, in the entire Wanling Mountains, one after another quaint buildings rose out of thin air. These things were jointly built by some strong people in the medicine sanctuary to temporarily receive these huge groups who participated in the onlookers of the Medicine Refining Pill Society. Therefore, some huge trading venues inhabiting the Wanling Mountains have appeared. Here, almost all the strange treasures in the 7 worlds are gathered. As for whether it is some broken copper and rotten iron, or precious treasures, I am afraid that unknown. Brother Xiao Yan, the first stage, it shouldn't be easy, right? Many pharmacists have their own exclusive residences. In the quiet wooden house at this time, Zuner is as beautiful as a fairy under the moon. Seeing Xiao Yan's expression is a little dazed, she can't help but say. During Xiao Yan's competition, this girl had already figured out a lot of things here. Really, although my soul power is tyrannical now, my mastery of soul fighting skills is indescribable. Once you encounter a powerhouse at the peak of Yuan realm, it will be extremely difficult. Xiao Yan wrapped his arms around Zuner's delicate body and said slightly ashamed. Xiao Yi and Princess Qianqin went to deal with the fire elf. They have already left a message, so we don't need to worry. Brother Xiao Yan, come with me. Zuner stuck out her tongue at Xiao Yan, then quietly pushed open the door of the wooden house and ran towards some cities in this mountain range. The surrounding area of Wanling Mountain is vast and boundless. The north is naturally the habitat of high-level pharmacists such as Xiao Yan, while the other directions are roughly the same, but at this time it is extremely prosperous and lively. Located at the foot of the mountain range, on a vast plain, it is brightly lit and crowded, which is quite lively. Seeing the moving figure running cheerfully in front of him, like an elf, Xiao Yan was a little stunned, and it took a long time to realize the abnormality in front of him. On the wide flat ground in front of them, people come and go. Although there are inevitably entanglements and quarrels between them, they are simply happy and very lively. This is a bustling market in the Wanling Mountains. It will only appear after the alchemy pill meeting starts. Many alchemists and some strong people with strange treasures gather here to sell treasures in exchange for some treasures. With the help of the bright lights, Zuner turned around with a smile, her hands behind her back, and the light and elegant voice calmed her mind. Taobao district? Hearing Zuner speak like this, Xiao Yan's eyes and soul force swept away towards this huge area, and there was a rare excitement in his heart. It is obviously not the first time that Xiao Yan has encountered such a thing like Taobao in the vast ocean. Taobao in such a place may be able to obtain some valuable treasures at a very low price. Of course, all this requires excellent luck. After all, the many strong people who set up their stalls here are all cunning old foxes. They must have gone through countless investigations to sell treasures. It can be said without hesitation that it takes not only luck, but also courage to conduct Taobao in such a Taobao area. You girl, you really have good news. Let's go in and have a look. I hope you can gain something. As soon as the words fell, the two stepped into the bustling city hand in hand. Just stepped into the so-called Taobao area, surrounded by a series of eye-catching treasures. Medicinal materials and medicinal herbs are emerging one after another. Even Xiao Yan can't help but slap his tongue secretly. But what surprised Xiao Yan the most was the businessmen who set up their stalls here. There were hundreds of booths, but the owner of the booth did not shout loudly, just sat with his eyes closed, and people who came and went at random stopped and watched without moving. That kind of feeling, as if they are not afraid of the treasures they sell being robbed. After all, the people who can set up a booth here, whether it is power or prestige, are probably the best people in the world. The entire Taobao area extends in all directions, forming a complex field shape. Xiao Yan and the two kept wandering along the way, but they did not find any precious treasures. Obviously, this kind of Taobao also requires luck. You! I bought this thing first. You are bullying the weak. Just when the two of them were a little disappointed and were about to leave here and go back to the accommodation area, a soft voice sounded not far away. This little girl, isn't the guy who pestered me to buy candied haws, seems to be called Yuchi? Xiao Yan rolled his eyes and instantly recognized the source of the sound. Go and have a look. Xiao Yan pulled Shuan and walked over. Big brother, you are here. This guy and I ** the medicine pill. This elixir is clearly the one I bought first. And this stall owner, who is obsessed with money, doesn't abide by the trading rules here at all. Xiao Yan and the two just approached. The little girl's eyes lit up and she called for help to Xiao Yan. Cough cough. After Yu Qi said this, some onlookers pointed, and even the man who competed with this girl for the medicine pill was livid. Sir, is this something? Xiao Yan swiped at random and found that the strength of the old man in front of him was about the second-level reincarnation rank, and the man who competed with Yu Qi for the medicine pill was only around the reincarnation, and Xiao Yan immediately guarded the little girl in front of him. His eyes were blank, looking at the stall owner and the man with good intentions. Hey, that's right, but everything pays attention to the one with the highest price. If you don't have enough wealth, don't come to the Taobao area. Seeing Xiao Yan and the two appearing, the bidding man seemed unmoved. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, and then he said with a smile. After all, this is the corner of Wanling Mountain, and he does not believe that Xiao Yan and others dare to beat people. You! Yu Qi heard the words, her little face flushed with anger, and her little mouth pouted and stomped her feet. Wang buzz. With the appearance of this scene, Xiao Yan took a deep breath and tried to prepare to teach the bidding man a lesson, but next to the booth, there was a cold air that filled the air, and those cold air were like moonlight, extremely mysterious and mysterious. A faint pattern of the moon appeared in the air. Continuing from the previous episode 2393. Whoa! Following the scene of swords drawn in the field, many figures took a few steps back, as if waiting to see a good show. The ground in the arena sank quietly, as if there was some tyrannical aura coming here, and the moon pattern quietly floated on the ground. The cold spread from the air. Senior sister, this guy is bullying me. Yu Qi's small eyes blinked quickly, looking at the life-saving straw that gushed out with the moon shadow. The little guy rushed over and hugged the woman who was shrouded in the moonlight silver robe, a bitter coquettish appearance. Peefed. As soon as the woman in the moon robe appeared, she raised her hand involuntarily, and then a moon-shaped arc of light surged out, easily knocking the sneering bidding man down. All of this was nothing but lightning and flint, so that the bidding man didn't have time to react at all, and the whole person slumped on the ground in an extremely embarrassed manner. You! How dare you hit me? Do you know who I am? I'll make you regret it by hitting someone at the competition site of the Alchemy Pill Club. Fiery red brand marks appeared on the bidder's face, and then angrily roared. Senior, everything has to be divided into first come first served. The silver-robed woman stretched out her hand to gently protect the next month, and then said in a reprimanding tone, ignoring the bidding man from beginning to end. This guy, what the *** is going on? The bidding man is an elder catching from a superpower, a pharmacist with a full 7th rank top rank, and there is a triple reincarnation rank powerhouse in that faction. These two women may have gotten into some unnecessary trouble. Ellipsis quote. The onlookers sighed softly, but they automatically ignored Xiao Yan and the two of them. This guy is from the Moon God Palace? Zuner and Xiao Yan looked at each other because they could smell an extremely dangerous wave from the woman in the moon robe. Hey, it is indeed negligence. This medicine pill can be considered as an apology for this old man. The old man was obviously not very personable, and he immediately became polite when he saw through some of the details of this guy. Wearing a moon robe and possessing the pattern of the moon, I am afraid that the entire immortal world belongs only to the moon god palace. Let's go. Next time, don't run around indiscriminately, otherwise if something happens, I can't spare you, maybe I'll go back and beat you. The silver-robed woman's pretty face covered by the tool could vaguely see a look of doting, but even if it was as thin as the tool, everyone couldn't easily see the latter's true face. Big brother, thank you. This is the senior sister of our sect, she is very powerful. After doing all this, the little girl Yuchi ran to Xiao Yan and whispered. Oh. Hearing what the little girl Yuchi said, Xiao Yan couldn't help but take a second glance. It seemed that this figure was somewhat similar to the figure in the heavenly lake of Yaochi Wonderland. Yuchi is a noble girl, and she has some mysterious power in her body. Even Xiao Yan can only shake her head. I am afraid she is the core child of the Moon God Palace, and the senior sister of the Moon God Palace in front of her should be you. The strongest among the disciples in the shrine. The strongest disciple in the Moon God Palace, his strength and prestige should be on the same level as Fairy Yaochi. Oh, this girl looks a bit raw. After Yu Qi made such a fuss, the silver-robed woman quietly walked over to Xiao Yan and the two of them. When approaching the latter, her gaze unconsciously moved to Zuner. A touch of hostility emerged. Gu Zuner. Zunerdai's eyes wrinkled. Although she was puzzled, she still spoke generously. Moon God Palace. The palms of the two beautiful shadows quietly touched each other, but the discerning person could see through it at a glance, and there seemed to be some rare resentment in it. See you next time. The two palms slowly dropped, and then the silver-robed woman glanced at Xiao Yan with a resentful look, pulled Yu Qi and disappeared into the crowd. What a weirdo. Zuner shook her head slightly, and then looked at her palm with some doubts. The grip just now seemed not only so simple, but there seemed to be a hint of envy hidden in it. Since there is no eye-catching treasure here, let's not waste time here, brother Xiao Yan, let's go. Zuner said, and immediately there were signs of leaving. Etc. Just after Zuner finished speaking, Xiao Yan glanced around and found something precious at a booth not far away. It was a booth wrapped in some pale yellow parchment paper. There were countless products in the booth, but the only thing that attracted Xiao Yan and the two was a green leaf that looked inconspicuous. Sir, this thing. I bought it. Xiao Yan casually glanced around, and then spoke with a rather contemptuous tone. A holy rank 8th grade medicinal pill, regardless of the level of heaven and earth. The closed eyes of the old man moved slightly, and a startling sound came out. What? Just such a piece of broken copper and rotten iron, you actually want an 8th grade holy pill? Old man, you are swaggering and cheating. Xiao Yan's eyelids twitched slightly, and he looked at each other without smiling. The guys who can set up booths here are all budget-conscious owners. Once they find that you are interested in a certain item, they will do everything to increase its value, so in this kind of Taobao area, you need to be extremely shrewd. Mind, a holy rank 8th grade medicinal pill is not expensive. After all, little brother should know the preciousness of those things in this leaf. The old man slowly opened his eyes, and a touch of invisible turbid air actually caused Xiao Yan's soul to tumble slightly. This guy is definitely not easy. Precious? In my opinion, this thing has no effect other than having some special soul breath. I just saw its small and exquisite appearance, and I just gave birth to the intention to buy it. Xiao Yan shook his head and said regretfully, since the old gentleman has no intention of selling it, we will not be others. Zuner, let's go. After finishing speaking, Xiao Yan took Zuner directly, turned around handsomely, and rushed towards the end of this night market, moving quickly, looking extremely handsome. Hateful. The old man's eyes narrowed slightly, and Xiao Yan, who was walking further and further away, clenched his fists unconsciously. The booths he set up were filled with real treasures, but even if he exhausted his efforts, he couldn't spy on the mysteries. Now he can only take out these precious treasures in exchange for some practical items. Boy, come back. A 7th grade medicinal pill. This is the biggest concession I can make. After all, I have worked so hard to find this thing. If it wasn't for me who couldn't solve the mystery, I would definitely not put it up for auction. The old man spoke lightly and stopped Xiao Yan. It's too expensive. Xiao Yan has no intention of looking back. He still strides forward, and within a few steps, he will leave here completely. This guy, listening to Xiao Yan's understated tone, an inexplicable anger gushed out from the old man's chest. 3 6th-grade medicinal pills. Just before Xiao Yan's figure was drowned in the crowd, a slightly angry low roar resounded in Xiao Yan's heart. If that's the case, then thank you, old gentleman. Xiao Yan, who had already been submerged in the crowd, appeared in front of the booth at a ghostly speed and completed the transaction after a simple procedure. It's really unfortunate. This thing is a treasure that I secretly stole from the center of the fairy world. If it wasn't for me who couldn't spy on the mysteries, how could it have fallen to this point? A faint voice sounded, and calm was restored here. Continuing from the previous episode 2394. The Taobao area was still dimly lit and quite lively, but Xiao Yan and the two went around after the purchase to avoid being stared at by some wicked people. Brother Xiao Yan, what is this? On the way back to the habitat, seeing Xiao Yan's expression so solemn, Zuner couldn't help asking. To be able to make Xiao Yan, who is now at the 2nd level of reincarnation, have such a solemn expression, I am afraid that the origin and power of this tiny blade are absolutely extraordinary. This thing doesn't look any different from ordinary leaves. The only difference is that the leaves are contaminated with some weak soul power, but the spiritual palace in my body has been bursting with a wave of eager desire. Specifically, I also can't tell, but according to my induction, it seems to be related to soul power. After returning to the residence and isolating the entire residence using soul power, Xiao Yan just placed this leaf-like thing in the void, and the two carefully looked at it one after the other. It doesn't seem to be any different, doesn't it? Xiao Yan and Zuner looked at each other, but found nothing. Soul power. Xiao Yan nodded. The soul power in his body was revolving, and an invisible tide of soul spread out, indescribably happy physically and mentally. Whoa! With the appearance of Xiao Yan's soul power, the green leaves in the quiet state actually fluttered in the wind, as if they had spirituality for a while. Puff puff puff. Looking at the scene in front of him, Xiao Yan's heartbeat gradually began to beat violently, and even the spiritual palace in his body slightly burst into an extremely terrifying fluctuation. This is. On the green leaves, a strange liquid like an agate slowly dripped down. After these liquids appeared, the whole house was filled with an extremely powerful pressure. Xiao Yan suffered from this oppression, and the soul power in the 7-layered spiritual palace in his body was instantly turned upside down. As for Zuner, the divine weapon bracelet was directly displayed, and the pressure was greatly reduced after the golden crow body protection. What is this? Looking at the strange liquid beside the leaves, Xiao Yan spoke out with great vigilance, because with his eyes, there was a dizziness that was extremely violent. This is the source of the soul. The 5-legged golden crow, who sheltered Zuner, was quite surprised and said, obviously this guy knows this kind of thing. Soul source? Xiao Yan and Zuner exclaimed at the same time. Obviously these brand new words were ruthlessly washing their minds. Xiao Yan, who was as tyrannical as a half-step immortal wandering realm, felt a burst of heart palpitations. What is the existence of this so-called spiritual source? After the soul power enters the fairyland, it will build a spiritual palace. After that, it is too empty, and the metamorphosis is a realm where the soul power increases. As for the so-called immortal wandering, it is already at the level leading to the peak of reincarnation. After the soul power enters the immortal ascension realm, there will be some kind of strange change, a real qualitative change. And the divine source of the soul is the best symbol of the immortal ascension boundary. The 5-legged golden crow said with great admiration, leaving Zuner's shoulder while speaking, flying over the whole body of the leaf, and counting the amount of liquid formed little by little. The source of the soul. Xiao Yan smiled slightly. Obviously, this thing can only be absorbed and produced by stepping into the immortal ascension realm. The current self is indeed a little bit worse. 10 drops. There are actually 10 drops. The next moment, the 5-legged golden crow let out a roar, and waved its teeth and claws, unable to hide the surprise and joy of this guy. 10 drops of soul divine source. This thing is probably enough for me to truly step into the immortal ascension realm. As he spoke, Xiao Yan was also very excited. If you can step into the immortal ascension realm before the second test, This time the medicine pill meeting is basically a sure thing. Wait, don't be too happy. These 10 drops of soul source don't seem to be quite right. The normal source of soul contains a huge source of soul. The absorption of ordinary people can prolong life, and the absorption of soul cultivators can improve the realm of the soul, but the source of soul in front of me is too much. Weak. Excited for a moment, the 5-legged golden crow began to shake its head, and the golden flames actually wrapped 10 drops of agate-like liquid little by little, and began to probe. This thing doesn't seem to be used to enhance the power of the soul, but more like it is specially used to record something. Zuner shook her head. 10 drops of soul divine source was quite oppressive, but there was no pure power in it. Instead, there was only a faint green halo surrounding it. Reincarnation? Yin spread out, and with the help of the 5-legged golden crow, Zuner also noticed the mystery. Brother Xiaoyan, use the spirit palace to collect these 10 drops of the soul source and try it. After a while, Zuner had an idea and said directly, "Spiritual palace." Boom! Xiaoyan closed his eyes, mobilized nearly 7 layers of spiritual palaces in his body, and launched a rather turbulent attack on the 10 drops of the spiritual source. Invisible soul power poured out, and combined with the huge soul power of the 7th floor, it directly formed 7 overlapping soul mountains, which were easily suppressed by 10 drops of liquid. Peefed. The 7-layered soul mountain spread, and the green leaves quietly turned into powder and disappeared here, but when the soul power came into contact with those liquids, the 10 drops of the soul *** source shone brightly, and a ray of light that penetrated the entire soul enchantment burst out. This is a soul fighting skill? These soul sources are impressively used to record the cultivation methods of soul fighting skills. Feeling the 10 drops of soul divine source slowly scattered on top of my soul mountain, a daze and excitement came out. Soul fighting skills are what Xiaoyan is most in short supply at present, and Xiaoyan vaguely feels that the fighting skills recorded in these 10 drops of soul ** source, whether it is formidable or equal, are probably the best. This Taobao is really worth it. Wang buzz. In the entire soul barrier, the power of the soul spread like a tide at will immediately. 10 drops of the spiritual source of the soul completely invaded, and it turned into 2 illusory scrolls full of ancient aura on Xiaoyan's body. The scroll was opened, and a touch of power that made Xiaoyan's executioner feel extremely uneasy, filled the soul mountain, and started some mysterious and complicated actions. It seems that with the help of Xiaoyan's soul power, he is demonstrating the scroll of fighting skills. 2 soul fighting skills. This guy is a big bargain this time, but unfortunately these soul gods are not complete. Only the soul fighting skills can be recorded, otherwise if there is a complete soul ** source, you will be promoted at that time. Immortal Ascension Boundary, his strength will be even more terrifying. The 5-legged golden crow spoke lightly, and together they looked at the phantom in the soul mountain that was constantly demonstrating soul fighting techniques. Strange, why does the phantom that demonstrates soul fighting skills have an aura that makes me feel uncomfortable with the reincarnation seal? An enemy? Zuner could only shake her head. The 3 of them waited for Xiaoyan's exit in the soul barrier together, but they were able to make the 9 profound fire lords reincarnation seal feel so uneasy. I am afraid that in the entire immortal world for 3 days, only the powerhouses in the center of the immortal world will be the only ones.